So I'm Ernie Ballard, LSU's Media Relations Director. I appreciate everyone joining today. And the format will be, we'll have today we have Provost, Executive Vice President Provost Stacy Haney joining us, Chief of Staff Ashley Arsenault from the President's Office, Vice President for Strategic Communications Jim Saborin, and then let me make sure I get Keena's title right, Associate Vice President in the Office of Research and Economic Development, Keena Arbuthnot. And Keena has been doing a lot of our helping to manage a lot of our COVID preparations on campus and just digging into a lot of the data. So she's joining us and will be helpful when we get to the Q&As. But today for the rundown, we'll have Provost Haney start off giving some remarks, and then Ashley Arsenault on behalf of the President's Office will give us a brief update, and then we'll do Q&A. As always, please just type your questions in the chat and we'll facilitate it that way so we can won't have people talking over each other and can kind of keep it organized. And if you want to introduce yourself and the outlet you're with when you ask your question, we'd appreciate it. So I will firstly turn it over to Provost Stacy Haney.
Thank you, Ernie, and thank you all for being here today. Let me just start by saying how incredibly saddened the entire campus community is at the loss of Dean Johnson. I know a number of you studied with Martin or knew and worked with him and also valued him as a colleague and friend and are grieving with us. We were so proud of Martin as an alum and Baton Rouge native long before he came home to serve as a faculty member and our dean. He was an accomplished scholar and could have selected any institution for the next step in his career. He loved LSU and he chose to come home. And he proved to be a brilliant leader as well as a brilliant scholar and teacher. And his faculty shared with me this past year, Martin is the rare individual who understands both the scholarly and professional responsibilities of the school and knows how to maximize the effectiveness of both. Martin's a great boss, and I am immensely enjoying working with him. And his students have also shared how positively he impacted their academic journeys. In a very short period of time, he was able to move the school forward in substantial ways, hiring and supporting our exceptional faculty, expanding experiential learning and professional opportunities for our students, and strengthening the national research profile of the school. He was a devoted husband and father, and a beloved colleague and friend. It is difficult to speak of Martin in the past tense, and his spirit will remain a part of us.
All right, thank you so much for that, Provost Haney. And I appreciate you guys in the media honoring Martin with the stories you've put out last night and today, and will continue to do so. We're thankful, and just ask everyone to keep his wife and son and everyone's thoughts and prayers. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ashley Arsenault in the President's Office to give us an update on behalf of Interim President Thomas Galligan.
Thanks, Ernie, and thanks, Provost, for sharing those thoughts on Martin. We are all still really in shock, I think, and so it's difficult to put into words. So thank you for doing such an eloquent job of that. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We're really appreciative that you continue to join us on these weekly briefings. As you know, the goal behind this is for LSU to be as transparent as possible as we go through this unprecedented event. And we want to make sure you always have access to the latest and greatest that we are doing on campus to fight COVID-19. President Galligan asked me to relay a few items to you all, so I'm going to go through those, and then after that, we'll take questions that you might have. So first, let me just say that our numbers remain pretty consistent right now. We have some updated numbers from Monday, and I think we'll talk through why those numbers changed a little bit in a minute. But we had, 20 new positive cases, 15 of which were students. So that's a really small number. 25 students in isolation, 38 in quarantine. Now, I want to remind you that those isolation and quarantine numbers do not count students who go home to isolate or quarantine, right? So these are only the students that remain in LSU's care, in LSU affiliated spaces. I want to be clear on something. While these numbers are good, right? These are low numbers. We are not satisfied with the amount of testing that's going on campus. And we continue to work with our student partners to encourage more frequent and consistent testing. You know, we know that a lot of students in the traditional age range of a college student, let me clarify that, are not really negatively affected by COVID-19. But it's important to also realize that asymptomatic carriers still transmit the virus, right? And so we're trying to normalize the testing behavior because these students have to, as they know, watch out for each other, but they also have to watch out for their family and friends, and also for the LSU faculty and staff who are there working tirelessly for their benefit. So I think that's a little piece that we really want to drive home. There was a Oshner study not so long ago that talked about how many people were asymptomatic, and it was about 60% of those that they tested. That's a large number, and that's a lot of people. So we as an administration are only able to make decisions based upon the data we have, and we can make better decisions when we understand better the spread and presence of COVID-19 on LSU's campus right now. Let me go ahead and say thank you to the team at LSU for the hard work on our new dashboard. I hope that you've all seen it by now. It went live last week. Just as a reminder, we put data up, new numbers, excuse me, up on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday toward the end of the day around 4 p.m. It's available at lsu.edu/roadmap/COVID dashboard. I'm sure you're pretty familiar with it, but if not, we'll put the link in the chat box. Now, most of your outlets have already covered that we required testing at a couple of residence halls where we detected higher levels of the virus in our wastewater monitoring project. It's important to note that the wastewater piece is just one tool in our toolbox for understanding troublesome spots on campus, right, where we really have areas of concern and need to get tested. There are other pieces other pieces of information that we would use that could trigger more required testing. Right now, we lean heavily on wastewater, combination of wastewater, our Tiger monitoring system, which is also our symptom tracker, and on-campus test results. But we are constantly working to expand that toolbox, use the latest technology, and understand the latest advances in how people are working to fight the virus. Let's see. I think we want to say that we are very proud of the lengths our faculty, staff, and students have gone to protect each other so far. But as a university and as a community, we remain vigilant, and we are not going to fall into the trap of complacency, right? We know this virus is still very active, and we are committed to protecting our university community. You saw, I'm sure, just recently that we were able to announce our largest freshman class in history, which broke records also for diversity. We were very proud of that. I want to make sure you notice too that during this unprecedented time, we were also able to break a record for our first to second year retention of our students. That is not an accident. That happened during a pandemic when we had to pivot to a virtual environment basically overnight. And so the ability to keep those students from one year to the next is truly a testament to how hard everyone at our university is working for the success of these students. And I don't want to ever diminish that. And we thank our entire LSU faculty and staff for that. And it's due to the tenacity of our student body as well. We're just amazed and impressed as we go through this. You know, uncertainty is not a great feeling for anyone, but that is the world we live in right now. And our community continues to prove that we're going to fight back and work together to do so. I think that's really it for the president's report. And Ernie, do you want to take it back over?
Sure. Thanks a lot, Ashley. So with that, are there any questions? We haven't had anyone write anything yet in the chat, but I'm assuming you guys have some questions. So who'd like to go first? Jonathan Von Springer from WBRZ. You're leading off.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, this is for Ms. Haney. Obviously, and I guess this question would be, I don't know if Ms. Arsenault wants to answer this from the president's office instead. This would have been posed to Mr. Galligan. I guess the question I have leading off is we do not have a home game this week at LSU. Next home game will be Missouri the week after. But with one game under the belt, kind of what, as the administration, did y'all see regarding what y'all could do better, what worked, what didn't, if changes need to be made, kind of what was the reaction to how COVID restrictions and protocols were followed and what may need to be changed the remainder of the season?
Well, I'll speak on behalf of the president for that one. I think that, again, for the first time, for our first home game during a pandemic, we were really pleased with the level of compliance we saw. That's not to say that there can't be improvements. I mean, every time, we were just talking about this in earlier meetings, we're learning something every minute of every day about how to improve our protocols and how to help people understand and be better educated about how to keep themselves and others safe. So I think the short answer to that is that we're just going to keep doing what we're doing and find better ways to carry that message. Now, I will say right now, I don't think there are any major changes planned for the next home game, but I would encourage people to be receptive to the idea that throughout the season, we will likely see some adaptations as new information unfolds, as the state eases or increases restrictions, or as we find new ways to work with our fan base to encourage more compliance.
All right, thanks, Ashley. Next, we have Scotty Hunter from WAFB.
Hi, good morning. This question is also for Ms. Arsenault. Are you able to say how many dorms were required to do that mandatory testing? And also how quickly those results came back and whether students were asked to kind of quarantine in the interim?
That's a great question. We're steering away from giving too much specifics because we don't want to get into this business of identifying areas, right? This is a very sensitive issue. But please know that individuals who need to know if they were exposed or in any danger with their health have been notified, and all that is being taken care of. Our team mobilized incredibly quickly, and I think Keena can probably speak to the details of that better than I can. But I would say that over the weekend, they turned around something to a 90% rate of testing. And let me let Keena talk to the actual numbers on that one.
Thanks for the question, Scotty. Yes, we had about between an 80 to 90% response rate in the dorms. As we all know, it was a very short time period where students were alerted to get tested. And it was just great. Students were actually leaning out their doors saying, when is it my turn? They were all very proactive in doing it. I think the ones that missed are doing a retake later on in the week. But most of them were just, at work or either in the dining halls, et cetera. But most, like I said, 80 to 90% in the residence halls were tested. So we're very excited about that. And it went really smoothly for such short notice, particularly after a game weekend.
And I think that I'd like to add to, it's important to note with things like this that it's a community effort and really intensely, so we've got our staff and faculty working to create these plans to get the testing out to the students. The students are participating willingly, and our residential life staff and others are really coming together to help those students get it turned over really quickly so we can get those results faster. So it really is a great example of how the university is using its expertise to come together and make sure those students stay healthy.
Okay, and if I could follow up to that one.
Yeah, go ahead, Scotty.
Yeah, I know we saw some people were kind of wondering how that process would work for students maybe that were off campus or that had gone home, maybe that they had gotten some communication telling them that they would also have to test. I guess, was that true, or could you kind of speak to that?
I can help with that question, Scotty. If I'm understanding it correctly, all the students that were in those residential halls were contacted. StratCom was involved in contacting them, as well as their RAs and res hall directors were contacting them as well. So everyone in those residential halls knew about the testing initiative and were informed properly.
Okay, so like if they went home though, but they still, I guess, were technically living in the dorm, they were also notified?
Everybody within those dorms, they were notified, yes.
And the test results were what, a 24 to 48 hour turnaround, Keena, is that correct?
24 to 48 hour turnaround. We're doing it at our labs here on campus that have been used not only for campus testing, but as well as processing tests for the greater Baton Rouge area, so yes.
All right, the next one we have Dion from NBC 33. He is asking if we have any concerns about the potential of bars reopening in East Baton Rouge Parish. Ashley, would you like to take this one?
Sure. I think, we've heard those rumors as well. And I think, we'd be lying if we didn't say we were a little worried, of course, but we believe in our students, and our students are adults, and they're going to have to make the personal decision of whether they feel comfortable going to those facilities or not at this point. As the state eases restrictions, and as these types of facilities become more available to a wider population, this makes all the other protective measures even more important, right? So we're just going to continue encouraging our students in a very robust manner, wash your hands, cover your mouth when you cough, wear your mask, socially distance, and, again, take a COVID test, whether you're ill, whether you feel symptomatic or not. Work that into your routine while you're on campus. It's free, it's easily available, and it helps you and it helps others.
All right. Any other questions? That's the only ones we had so far in the chat.
I guess maybe a follow-up to the bar question. LDH's daily release actually coming an hour later today, going to come at 1. And if East Baton Rouge is under that 5% positivity, the mayor here has already said she will opt into opening bars. Specifically, I know you kind of just touched on that, but besides, asking students to take personal responsibility, is there any other thing y'all are looking at that y'all maybe could do? I don't think y'all have really any power over Tigerland, but is there anything besides, just urging your students' caution that y'all are looking at? I mean, that really lies in the hands of students at that point.
It is personal responsibility, to be sure, but we also have great relationships with a lot of local businesses, and everyone is invested in keeping classes in person. I think both the students, us at LSU as administrators, the local community is really dependent on a lot of our student-generated economic impact. And so we're all hopeful that we can work together to really enforce those social distancing mandates, those mask wearing, that mask wearing behavior, and to, try to find ways to keep the businesses running like they need to, while respecting everybody's need to have a healthy environment, right? And so I think just leveraging those community relationships that we've been lucky enough to have for so long is really going to help us.
And I definitely think President Galligan has echoed that over and over, that we're all in this together, students, faculty, staff, the local community. So I think that'd be definitely one of the messages we would be sharing at this time. Other follow-up questions or different topics?
Sure. Ms. Arsenault, I also wanted to follow up to the bars question as well. You mentioned that you guys wanted to have more robust testing. Is there kind of an idea of maybe how often you would like people on campus to test?
That's a great question. In fact, we just discussed that today as well. We are constantly evaluating that. I would not posit a number just yet, Keena, unless we have one. I don't think we do yet. But we are working with our scientists and health experts to look into things like that. Again, right now we're encouraging, but we are watching numbers very carefully. We're watching behaviors, and we want to work together as a campus community to get there. But those are the types of questions we're working with experts to answer.
And it's great being a Research One university with medical schools and all the great faculty and researchers, epidemiologists, that we have them right here that we can ask, so we don't have to veer very far to get some good expert advice. Do we have another question from the media? All right, is that it? Does anyone in the administration have any final thing they'd like to add or say?
I would just echo what Ashley and Ernie have just said about tapping the expertise we have as a research institution. And with 2 medical campuses as our partners, there's a wealth of expertise who are following the research on this disease very closely. So they're able to help guide our efforts. And in addition, those same scholars are able to build a lab to help us develop the tests, to help us process the tests, to help us analyze that data and understand what it means in terms of keeping our community safer and healthier, and our students learning and progressing, and our faculty in the classroom continuing to produce the magic every day there, and to continue their scholarly work. So we're fortunate in that respect to be able to have that expertise we can tap.
Thank you for that, Provost. All right, with that, we can conclude today's media briefing. If anyone joined late, I will have the video, so just reach out to me and I can send the video, or if you need the video for quotes or anything like that, just let me know. And we're getting together information for our next briefing, so I will send that out as soon as we have it. And again, we thank you for joining us today and appreciate everything you're doing to help spread these messages about testing and protocols and procedures. We just appreciate you joining us. Thank you.